Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream. Hello, how's it going? Jim Lujan in the chat said, "Hey Jay, what you say?" I don't know what you say, Jay. Fellow Jay, we're in the what was it? We had a thing, Jim, where I think we had like J Crew or something. I can't remember. We had a thing where it was like a J thing where we were gonna J Boys. That's it. And then we would graffiti that on walls. J Boys with a Z because we're so hardcore. Hello, everyone. I'm going to be drawing robots. So, yeah, J Boys. There we go. I'm going to share that too, just so you guys can see the spelling. See, Jim and I, we're starting a gang called J Boys. I shouldn't have said that on camera. The feds are going to come get us, Jim, now. If feds knock on your door, I'm sorry for ratting us out. So what do we got? We got to draw a robot today. I have had the craziest weekend. Well, not really crazy weekend. It's like a 3-day weekend here. Saturday and Sunday, I spent most of the day basically doing homework. So for anybody who doesn't know, I'm teaching a full course load of high school, and then after work, I'm doing full-time college, so 4 classes. And then on the weekends, I'm just like slamming through 4 classes of homework, which is wild. And Jim said, I just noticed there are actually 4 Joshua Kembles on the screen. Can you find them all? That's true. There's like a million. So anyhow, so that's been wild. And so today is the first day I've had to kind of work on comics and art. And, the first thing I have to do today is a client illustration. I spent most of this morning kind of recovering, and this afternoon recovering from, the weekend and just juggling those 2 things. But here's the thing. I love all of it. I love doing it. And it's kind of fun to be busy doing things you love. So anyhow, but today, one of the coolest clients in the world that I love to death approved a rough for a cover. I do book covers for them quite often. They're called No Starch Press. They're awesome. They make great books too, especially if you're into programming or hacking. Preferably white hat hacking, and Python, all that kind of stuff. They write like these great books. They publish these great books that have to do with technology and stuff like that. And they have this robot character, and I've just been fortunate enough to have had them hire me a couple times, quite a few times, to draw their robot character for book cover. And so that's what we're going to do today is during this stream, I'm going to get this robot illustration from the rough I sent the client. We're going to go ahead and vectorize it, like draw it in Adobe Illustrator. So feel free to draw your own robots whilst I do this, or work on scripts for unicornian shenanigans. That's if you're Jim Lujan. I think he's working on a expose on the unicornians, which is pretty exciting. I'm excited because that's my favorite short Jim Lujan cartoon of all time. There's just something about it. Like it touches on a bunch of things that I'm obsessed with and interested in. Like, to me, anything that delves into like creepy cults is just like super fascinating. And then Jim Lujan and his humor mixed with creepy cults is like, it's the best thing ever. Plus, growing up as a kid, we had the Hobbit soundtrack on vinyl. Shows you how old I am. And you would put it on the record player, and one of the first songs on there was The Greatest Adventure. And that song in the original Hobbit, like the old cartoon from the 70s, that song is one of my favorite songs of all time. And there is, oh my goodness, that's my alarm clock, you guys. One of the greatest things in the world is that song and the kind of vibrato of the voice, like The Greatest Adventure. And Jim Lujan, in his John Henry Unicorn short, he basically does a song that's like the Unicornian theme song, and it's in the same stylings as that Hobbit song. So it's like John Henry Unicorn, and I absolutely love it. And so I'm excited to kind of see Jim return to that world of the Unicornians. So anyhow, my wife is in the background working on kids' books, and probably going to be walking our dog in a little bit. And I am going to get into, boom, creating this rough as a final. So this is the rough I sent the client. They wanted their robot character pouring data into a funnel that would come out as a spreadsheet. So I started thinking, okay, what kind of thing could represent data that would then be on a spreadsheet? And I was thinking, all the components that are in like pie charts and graphs and stuff like that. So this is it dimmed at here. Let me turn off the dimming. So that's what the rough looked like, right? I roughed this out a little earlier. Above it, I have one of my old final illustrations for them. And so that's for color reference because all their book covers have the same color theme. And so what we're going to do today is basically take this, I'm going to dim it, and then I'm going to draw in Illustrator a more precise, clean version of this. So I'm excited about it. Let's get to it. If you guys haven't yet, of course, hit the bell, subscribe, comment in the chats, all that fun stuff. All right, I'm also having coffee. He's at 6:30, and I'm probably going to have a very late night. Jim said, I'm working while you're working too. Yeah. And here's the thing. Like, I think that, unfortunately, I'm just going to be having a lot of late nights the next year or so. Is this on some kind of, this is on some kind of preset that's, yeah, it was on Snap to Grid. I don't know why I would have, oh, I know why I had it on Snap to Grid, because one of my assignments in class was to do word mind maps. Mind maps. I was going to say word clouds, but they call it mind maps of some chapters that I read. And like a good former art director, if I'm going to have to do mind maps, I'm going to be, I'm going to be doing that business in Adobe Illustrator and picking some really rad color themes and stuff for it. All right. So the point here is to finalize this illustration of this robot. I absolutely love doing these book covers. They're really fun. They're pretty exciting to kind of draw a robot. I don't know why. Robots are just they've always been one of the things that old vintage robots, like this type of robot. It's the type of thing that, like, if I had a free day and a sketchbook and I was just drawing stuff from my head, what would it be one of the first things I'd want to draw? It'd be a vintage robot. Which I know is kind of weird because I do like, graphic novels that are like indie, slice of life and stuff like that. So you may not think that I like drawing robots, but I think in general, I think most artists worth their salt like drawing robots. I think most artists worth their salt like drawing zombies. The other fun part about drawing robots and zombies is you don't have to be as rigid with the anatomy, which is pretty fun. They're kind of freeing. So what we're doing is basically working out this robot in vector. Now, one of my favorite things about doing vector art is when you need really clean kind of graphic lines, kind of like these book covers. It is a perfect medium for that. Jim said, this is where one of the students says, your mom's on Snap to Grid. Nice. Oh, snap. I always love the spin on your mom jokes where it's like you just say really nice things. Like, somebody's like, man, that's awesome. Your mom's awesome. And it's like there's no like negative connotation to it. I think that's going to be the new take on your mom jokes. I think that the world right now is in extreme need of more empathy. More empathy. Because there's just weird stuff going on in the news lately with our nation. I don't know. If you guys are like some of my Canadian viewers, you're probably just watching the crap show. Nice. Scott said, Scott Circlin's with us. He said, I like drawing ribbits too. I do. They're fun. Yeah, if you're like in Canada right now, I usually am very like pro-America, like very patriotic, okay? I'm a guy who I really like my country. My grandpa was in World War II, right? It's like we fought for this land. It's it's got its flaws, but in general, I tend to like the concept of America. I tend to like U.S. history. There's some dark stuff in our past, but compared to most countries, like it's not as bad as a lot of the dark stuff of other civilizations and countries in history. And I really like the Constitution, as nerdy as it is. I'm not going to get it tattooed on my arm or anything like that, but I really like it. So what's been happening where a lot of just the process of the Constitution is just kind of being scrapped right now. And right now our country's basically in and you know what I've realized too? I've realized why people are kind of okay with this in our country. I think that people are kind of okay with this happening because I think the people that support the people in power right now probably have never worked at a business where there's a hostile takeover at all. Like, like, I don't know. I've worked at places in the past, especially at like old kind of crappy jobs and stuff where in the corporate world, if you're like a bottom rung employee or whatever, and I have been a bunch of times, like I still am technically like a lowly employee, I'm a school teacher now, a lowly school teacher. But anyhow, so like what would happen is like, if you're at a workplace, right, you have like the guys in suits like show up and they just start cutting people. And then you find out like usually they're having a lot of meetings, kind of denying it's happening. And then before you know it, like half the workforce has been let go. And you have like, all the items that were for the business like are sold off, and maybe like 2 employees from the old one are in the new one. Anyhow, what is happening right now looks pretty much like night and day, like the same as a hostile takeover of a company, where it's just very aggressively downsizing and eventually, I think, abolishing a bunch of programs and stuff like that. Anyhow, my point is I have a lot of Canadian viewers, and I wonder how many of them are just kind of like looking at Americans like, what is wrong? what has happened to your brains? And in a weird way, it's like, it's sad and it makes me feel bad. I'm sorry, Canada. I'm sorry to other countries that were so crazy. But yeah, people voted for this nonsense. It's kind of wild. It's just wild times, guys. Wild times. So I'm not going to get like political or anything on this. Kind of kidding, because I always am a person who like at some point will speak up about my opinion. I'm not good at BSing. I don't know if I've told you guys this. I'm really bad at lying. I'm not saying I don't lie. It's just when I do lie, I'm really bad at it. So I tend to not, just because I'm not good at, I don't know if it's like being slightly autistic or whatever, but I'm just not good at not lying. Let's see here. What am I looking for? Oh, I needed to see my brushes properties. My brushes. Where am I? What is going on here? This is really strange. Oh, there we go. Okay. I don't know. Like, I think my settings on Illustrator kind of changed because I haven't used it in a while. So I was trying to find that line, the tapered line. All right. Anyhow, wildness in the U.S. A bunch of people are kind of okay with kind of like a hostile takeover of the U.S. with a rich billionaire. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. It's going to be interesting to see if we survive it, if we go on to better days, or if this is like the death pangs of a once great nation. We'll see. We'll see. Fun times, So anyhow, that's been going on in the background. But the nice thing is, for somebody who might possibly get a little too into, paying attention to what's going on and that kind of stuff, I have to say, like, I've been way too busy to kind of pay attention to quite a lot of what's been going on. But every time I look, I'm like, wow, okay, that's happening now. That's wild and unprecedented, and I can't wait to see what happens tomorrow, what tomorrow brings. It's going to be an interesting ride. Let's put it that way. So they like this like waffly waffle pattern. Is that a word? Is waffly a word? So anyhow, what we're doing right now is this tapered line to kind of represent these eyeballs. And we're going to kind of see what we can do here. Anyhow, so the fun thing about having been an illustrator for a long time is you do have these moments where, you got somebody who's a good client and they want you to draw robots all the time. And it's like, I'm, generally not taking a lot of freelance work, but if you want me to draw a retro robot and pay me pretty fairly for it, it's on. We're drawing retro robots, All right. What do we got? But it is scary times. It's scary times. I worry for, you know, I worry for people, and I try not to like worry too much because a lot of it's kind of out of my control. But I worry for people that are even more directly affected with what's going on. It's wild. It's just wild times. You know, I don't think I've ever seen a point where like a billionaire, like the richest person. I don't know if anybody's seen this yet in the US at least, where you have the richest person in the world just kind of hiring and firing people in the government. That's kind of weird. Kind of weird. Kind of strange times. All right. Saving. All right. So, yeah, so it has been a busy time. We are going to get through this, though. We're going to get through this robot illustration. And then I need to do a lesson plan, which shouldn't be too bad. I already have the basic beginning of it. We're going to be working on roughs. So I just have to show some examples of roughs. And tomorrow's a short day, which will be fun. But anyhow, so that's going to have to happen. And then I might be on later tonight. I realize sometimes I'll say this, like, oh, I'm going to be streaming later tonight, and then I won't. So I don't want to promise anything. But it's very likely I'll be streaming later tonight as well when I'm working on comics. And I know my friend Corey wants to do a recording for some of his peeps. So I'm going to be doing that probably directly after, depending when it hits like what time did we say? Let me make sure I have the time we said. Okay. So when it hits like 8 o'clock here, I might have to bail for a little bit because I am supposed to record something with Mr. Corey. All right. But we'll see how far we can get till 8. And then I'll probably be streaming directly after that as well. Dylan says hello. How's it going, Dylan? How are you surviving amid the chaos? Yeah, out there. Hopefully you're all right. Hopefully you're safe. I heard somebody say the other day, this is really funny to me. So to me, like, I would be concerned if I was in any country and you have like a billionaire basically hiring and firing people and closing, basically like areas of the government that were set up by Congress, right? Because Congress is supposed to be the people who write the laws and they have the power of the purse, right? The president just like vetoes them, right? That's kind of the president, and then he commands the military. Generally, that's how the U.S. works. So anyhow, so the thing that's a little scary to me is like the fact that people like trust. Okay, so this is anyhow. It's not scary so much as funny that somebody actually said this. So at a press conference, like one of the press people was like basically asking the spokesperson for the White House, hey, like, so like the press secretary, they were basically saying like, hey, so shouldn't we be concerned that like, the richest guy in the world is basically having access to all our personal information? our finances, like basically all the information of every U.S. citizen in the U.S., including their social security numbers, all that stuff, birth records, everything. They were just like, well, I mean, he's the richest guy in the world, so he doesn't need money. So we shouldn't be worried about him stealing because, you know, he's the richest guy in the world. Why would he steal? And it's like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. That's like, if you've ever hired, okay, so let's say you were like a little concerned about hiring somebody as an employee, you know, and you're like, no, you don't understand. The person already went to prison for their crime. Like, they're a prisoner. So, like, why would they commit a crime? Because they're a prisoner. I mean, like, why would somebody who's in prison commit a crime? Like, are you kidding me? They're a prisoner. Why would they? It's kind of a similar mode of logic where it's like, you know, I think it's pretty reasonable to be concerned that the richest person in the world would have access to the entire U.S. State Treasury Department, because how did they become the richest person in the world? They're probably not people who don't hoard money, is my point. Yes, Scott was saying, why would the richest person in the world want more power? And it's like, well, I mean, think about it. Like, how hungry for power do you have to be to become the richest person on the planet? And how hungry for money? Because, like, these are levels of money that aren't even conceivable to most people. I think it would be possible for Elon Musk to probably pay every person in the United States like an annual salary that's like a decent salary. Like, every single citizen in the US, a decent salary, probably for the rest of like my lifetime, and not go broke. Easily not go broke. That's how much money this dude has. I don't know if that's true, but it seems like it from what I've seen with his net worth. So anyhow, point being, why should we be concerned that like the wealthiest person has unfettered access to the government? And they're like, well, they voted for no, they didn't vote him in. Like, they voted a different person in. But you know, maybe here's the thing that I'm coming to terms with. I am starting to come to terms with, I think that it is highly possible that maybe some of my fellow countrymen just don't want a democracy anymore. I think that's kind of what's going on. And it's a little hard to accept and deal with, but I think that's kind of where we're at. So anyhow, my point is, if you're in Canada right now, I'm a little jealous. Canada sounds like a nice place to live right now. And if we're screwing you guys over with tariffs or any crap like that, I apologize. I don't know what's going on. I'm as confused by it as you guys are. I don't think we are. I think that it's one of those things where he kind of ended up getting the concession of Trudeau agreeing to what he was going to do anyway. And then he was like, look, it's a victory because he did what he was going to do anyway. Okay. Anyhow, I'm rambling. Not going to get political, though. Okay. We're doing the robot arms, the little segments. These are the coolest kind of robot arms. What good is a robot arm if it's not stretchy and Jetsons-y? Yeah, Dylan was saying he's the wealthiest. They estimate his net worth to be $397 billion. So think about that. Like, how much money is $1 billion? I don't even think somebody can comprehend that. And my point is, the type of personality that's going to get to $1 billion is not the type of personality that is getting that void, that like need met in their soul. You know, they have a drive for something that's like kind of insane. A drive for power, a drive for wealth accumulation. There, you know, And I've said this before, I'm a bit of a class warrior, but I don't think there's a billionaire alive who probably hasn't, like, to get that kind of wealth, you've probably done some pretty shady things. That's all I'm saying. And some of them like above board, but some of them probably not so much above board. Okay, whatever. Okay, here we go. We're merging this. I'm just saying it's been interesting. It will be interesting to see if we survive it, I guess I'm trying to think of like an optimistic take on the times we're in. Can we survive a dictator or an authoritarian leader? Can our country survive and keep its makeup that it's historically had for at least the last 100 or so years, Okay. So that's my kind of trying to be optimistic about the situation kind of thing. It'll be interesting to see if we survive this madness. It's an adventure. We're seeing history play out before us. Is my optimism working? I hope it is. Okay, here we go. So robot. All right, I'll be right back. I'm going to play a trailer. We're going to play... It's been a while, guys, since I've live streamed. By the way, look at this number of live streams. We're 2 away from 400. 400 episodes. Kind of wild. All right, let's put on Home Shopping Crumble, and I'll be right back.
Well, thank you, Colleen. I hope your daughter Kelly does well at North Carolina State this year. Well, we got another caller on the line. Elizabeth from Phoenix, Arizona. Elizabeth, what can we do for you? Are you ready to do some shopping, girl?
Oh, yes, Terry. I am ready to do some shopping today. I'm interested in that 2-book set you have. 2 Stories and Jacob's Apartment.
Oh, well, that's a great choice.
In fact, I bought these books before. I gave a set to my grandson, Hunter. These books are amazing.
Well, they sure are, and if you buy both of them, you really get the whole feel of the whole Joshua Kemble universe. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do, Terry. These books are remarkable because, for one, you can take them anywhere. You could put them in your car, and you can go to the park or the river. We've gone to the river. My husband Taylor and I, we just love it. And I murdered my husband at the river. Yeah, I did. But these still are amazing books.
Okay, I'm going to play another thing because I got to go check our hot water heater. So I will be right back. Let's Let's do one more trailer to keep you guys occupied. Frank's Adventures at the Library, and then hopefully I'll be back.
Our heroic adventurers fought orcs, monsters, sorcerers, necromancers. Now they find themselves in front of a mystical library. What shall they find? It's all in the roll of the dice.
We've come this far. There's great power behind this door. I can feel it. We just have to get past it. This door is no match for my axe. I shall chop it down. You always want to use brute strength. Why don't you try knocking? We'll try it your way. You may enter. The library is open to all those who seek knowledge. Feel free to look through our tomes. Maybe you'll find the answers you seek. I sense great power here, and it's behind those shelves. Indeed, there are powerful items hidden behind these shelves, but you can only get there through the enchanted words. Do you have those words? I believe I do.
Tremble before the Cremble.
There is great power. Look at that glove. Must be so powerful. That is not where I sense this power. I must get closer. I found them. I found these sacred manuscripts written by Joshua Kemble. Behold, I now possess 2 stories and Jacob's apartment. Please tell us more about 2 stories and Jacob's apartment, and who is Joshua Kemble? Xeric Award-winning cartoonist Joshua Kemble is a freelance artist, graphic designer, and author. 2 Stories is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately...
All right, I'm ending that a little earlier. So the hot water was fine. The hot water heater was fine, but my son seemed to think it was not working. So maybe it's not. I don't know. He tends to tell the truth about things. So, but anyhow, we'll see. Hopefully, we have a hot water heater. Okay, so right now I'm kind of splicing this to kind of draw the robot arm. And I think when you're doing illustrations like this, it's really important to consider line weights. This is something I like to do as like a variation in line weights with this style. Because if you're doing something where it's very solid lines, just having like some slight variation in the line weights is really important. All right. What are you guys working on? I know there's a lot of artists in my community. I love hearing what you guys are working on. So I think Dylan said, I was wondering what 1% of, I think he was talking about Musk's net worth would be. And he said 1% of 397 billion is 3.97 billion, right? So you want to think like with that kind of net worth, what did you have to do to get there? Was it all fun and games? I think you have to be. I forget, there was a did you guys ever read the book? I can't even remember who the writer was, but I read it a couple years back. It was called The Psychopath Test. And this writer basically went through and interviewed a bunch of billionaires and millionaires and gave them the test that that the American Psychiatric Association would basically give to a psychopath to find out if somebody was psychotic. And it's like the DSM basically definition of psychopathy. And he gave the test to a bunch of wealthy people and realized that a lot of the wealthiest people in the world are actually psychopaths. Like, they lack empathy. Like, they have all the kind of trappings of a good old psychopath. So anyhow, my point is, to be the richest person in the world, how many of those traits would you have? And I don't know. I guess I'm too much of a class warrior to trust super rich people, you know. And I'm not against somebody like acquiring wealth. It's just there's a certain amount. There's a amount of wealth, I think, that is like gets to like levels of absurdism, where it's like you're one, like, imagine that you were so wealthy that the money you have could literally solve world hunger, like, for a year. That's too much money. That's my point. You know, it's kind of like the I don't know. I feel like there has to be a point where you kind of let's say we're playing Monopoly, right? And there's a point in the game where nobody wants to play anymore. You know, have you guys all had that moment, you know, where you're playing Monopoly and then no one, like, finally it becomes so clear that there is no chance you are ever going to win this game. The board is owned. They're trying to cut you deals, like, to keep the game going because they're having a lot of fun with it, like the person winning. Maybe you're the person winning and you're trying to cut deals with the people, like, oh, you know what I'll do is, like, I'll keep you going for a few minutes, you know, like, here, how about you do, yeah, give me this property for this much. That'll keep you floating, you know. But eventually the game gets absurd when, like, the level of wealth disparity is so severe that there's just no way you can win the game. Like, you know, and that's where I feel like some levels of wealth get to this point where it's, like, so absurd that, like, you just, even to, like, to want that level of wealth is there has to be something wrong with your brain. And I'm a person, like, I don't mind, you know, money. Having money's nice, having things is nice, you know, that kind of stuff. But, like, I mean, even $1 billion just seems like, why? Like, why do you need $1 billion? What are you gonna do with $1 billion? You know? And I guess the old argument is, like, maybe it trickles down somehow. I don't know. But my wife said she'll get a lot of Twinkies. That's it. It's just, I'm going to build a house of Twinkies. It's a whole house. But anyway, my point is to get that kind of wealth and, like, want to have that much wealth, you probably have to be the type of person who would be like, yeah, I want to run the world. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's like that kind of personality that would cause, you know, somebody like Alexander the Great or any of the Reichs in history to, like, think, like, you know what? Like, I ran a country, but that's not enough. I want the whole thing. I want it all. It's the person playing Monopoly who just gets so far in the game that they just start getting sadistic, you know, where they're like, let me throw you some crumbs while I take over this. I want the whole board, right? And that's the thing I don't trust about, like, insanely wealthy people is you know, and this is my own opinion, but I don't think they're ever content with, I don't think they're ever content. I think they want it all. They want to take it all. And I think that kind of personality is just something that probably wants to take it all. Like, they're like the kid who goes to a friend's house. They're like the rich kid goes to a poor kid's house, and that poor kid has a toy they don't have, and they're like, I need that toy. And the parents buy them that toy, and it's like, no, I don't need that. I want their toy. And it's like, but it's the same toy. I know, but I just want their toy. You know, it's that, I don't know. Maybe I have an unfair view of wealthy people, but I think it's a healthy, very American thing to distrust the wealthy bureaucrats. I think that's a pretty standard American kind of thing. You know, I don't know. But again, I thought that was, like, kind of a common thread amongst most Americans, you know, but I am starting to be proven wrong, where you know, there's a lot that I thought was, like, a common thing, and it's not, you know. Jim was saying, as a multimillionaire myself, I'm offended. Yes. Well, Jim, I don't know if you guys have looked, but if you look up Jim Lujan's net worth, Jim is a millionaire. Google said so. I don't know what the site was, but yes, check out. Yes, Jim Lujan net worth millions. And here's the thing: when I'm talking about like crazy wealthy people, I'm not even necessarily talking about millionaires. I think it's probably possible for somebody to be a millionaire and be like an okay person. You know, I think that's pretty possible. I could kind of see that. We're talking billion. Billion is where it gets kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just like there's a level of absurdity to some wealth. You know, it's kind of like you're hoarding all the eggs. You want them all, right? All the eggs. That's a Cool Hand Luke thing. All right. Yeah, Scott was saying, I used to think the prototypical Bond villain was so unrealistic. Used to, yeah. I mean, like, here's the thing. People want, like, there's a good chunk of my country that wants a lunatic who has total access to space, sends rockets into outer space all the time, has their own kind of internet service that basically can run without connection because it's in space, has automated self-driving cars, has the most money of anyone in the planet, and they want that person to do a hostile takeover of our government. It does sound like a Bond villain, right? Sorry, what? I can't hear you, hon. Yeah. My wife was saying they don't realize that's what he's doing. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like a lot of these people who support, I don't know if they've ever worked at like a crappy job that has like a hostile takeover or fears of a hostile takeover, you know? Like that's pretty common in like a lot of middle class jobs. Like a lot of jobs I've worked, you know, there have been fears of hostile takeovers. I've worked at one or two when that happened, you know, and it's devastating for the employees, you know, but it's the kind of the darker side of capitalism, right? And it's definitely like the, you know, a lot of it kind of verges outside of capitalism to like crony capitalism, but still, yeah, I actually think that's kind of what it is like it's kind of like why a lot of people think Trump is like a amazing businessman. It's like I think a lot of these people have never done business, and so like they're like, oh, he must be a good businessman, like he says he is, you know. It's like I think a lot of these people, I'm guessing that a lot of these people are the mark, like the mark that, you know, a really crappy car salesman would be like, ha ha, do I have, you're a man who knows deals, let me sell you a car, you know. um that's what I don't know. I mean, I kind of think maybe it's just these people don't know they're getting scammed because they're marks, you know, they're marks. They're a mark. They are the exact people who like the bridge selling thing was invented for, you know. I'm sure you guys have heard the boy do I have a bridge to sell you, you know. And that's happened in history, you know. There's always been marks, there's always been people getting scammed, easy to scam kind of people, and they never think they're getting scammed when they're getting scammed. They'll have friends be like, hey, I think, let me see, what was it called, like Amway or something. I remember when I was early in college, I had a roommate who got into like one of those pyramid scheme things. I can't even remember what it was. It might have been, I don't know if Amway was a pyramid scheme. I can't remember, but it's something like that where it's like, it basically they have you buy a bunch of their product or whatever, and then like you're supposed to sell it, and then you get like 5 other people to sell it, and then their profits end up siphoning up to you, which siphons up above you, and it's a classic pyramid scheme, right? Where it's like the people at the top make a bunch of money, and the people at the bottom end up pretty much paying the people at the top all this money, thinking that they're going to be the person at the top. And the reason it's called a pyramid scheme is you never are going to be at the top unless you're like the 4 original people in a pyramid scheme. You're all getting screwed. But they keep you going because you'll see the guys at the top of the pyramid and you'll be like, oh man, like, see, if I follow this, I'll just become like them, not realizing that you are literally paying them all that money. And I've known people who got sucked into it, but I had a roommate once who got sucked into one of those pyramid scheme things for like a year. And he scheduled like, because a lot of those pyramid scheme things are like, dude, I got the best opportunity in the world. You got to schedule some time with me. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to pitch it to you, And he went through the whole thing and he drew like a pyramid. And he was like, see, you can't walk without 2 legs, right? This is what he said, right? And he's like, you can't walk without 2 legs to support you, So basically what we're all going to do is like, you need to get 2 legs to support you, right? And then they'll get 2 legs to support them, right? Because to walk, you have to have 2 legs. And I was like, wait, so that's 3 points that kind of sounds like a triangle. And they're like, no. Like by triangle, you're kind of implying this is a pyramid thing. No, it's not a pyramid scheme. This is legs, right? It's a person, that's 1 point, and then there are 2 legs. And I remember they drew it like a pyramid, and I was like, you just drew a pyramid. And he's like, no, legs. Okay, legs. You don't understand. This is going to make you so much money. And that friend, like years later, got out of the pyramid scheme thing, and was like pretty in debt from like getting sucked into that thing, And everyone around him was like, dude, you're getting scammed. You're in a pyramid scheme. And he's like, no. And he kept booking meeting after meeting until he found a couple marks. And those marks ended up spending a lot of money. And there were guys who probably got really wealthy off of, my old roommate and whoever he suckered into joining the same thing. It's like that or a cult, and like if you've ever known somebody who gets like sucked really knee deep in a cult, there's just no reasoning with them. They're going to kind of believe the cult. The cult leader is always right. And it's like, there's not much you can say to kind of be like you're in a cult, and if you say that to somebody in a cult, like they're going to be like, no, me, no. So anyhow, so we're on unprecedented times and uncharted waters. All right. I want to have this kind of okay, we're doing the bag here. Doing the bag. Anyhow, so it's been interesting to see people get suckered in, but it's like I knew that marks existed, that like there's people who are vulnerable and get sucked into like cults and and I know that like to an extent I could probably be a mark, like I think we're all prone to like some kind of delusion or cognitive bias to the point where we lose our capacity to kind of reason. And then sunk cost fallacy, right? Where you're like so deep in, you don't want to admit, that's usually how a lot of those pyramid schemes work too, right? Where somebody will get so deep in and they've invested so much money, into these like products that keep getting shipped, their Amway stuff or whatever, they're trying to sell candles to their friend. They have a whole warehouse of candles because they're like, this must be where the money's at. They went to the meeting in a Vegas, I don't know, like it feels like a lot of those things are usually pitched in Las Vegas, but they went to their meeting and they were like, yeah, this is the future. This is the solution to everything. All my problems will be solved by this thing. And before you know it, you're a mark. And I think that's what's happened. I think half the country is a mark. Like they've been suckered in. But here's the thing that's scaring me is like that's like the more positive vision of that is that they're marks. They don't know any better. The scary part is, there might be people who aren't being suckered in and might just actually want like a crazy totalitarian government. That's the scary part is like thinking, realizing like some of these people aren't necessarily suckered in, like they just like, that to me is the scariest thing. All right, so we're gonna call this a good spot. Where are we at? Oh, okay. Let's go for 4 more minutes and then we'll play another trailer. So we're getting closer to kind of having all the lines done here. I want to have these lines kind of be thicker on the edges for these little components. But yeah, like to me, the thing that scares me is not the person who got suckered in. It's the person who like knows fully well what they're doing. that's the scariest people to me. Somebody who was misled, I have sympathy for. Maybe they're so deep in, they have like a sunk cost fallacy, but it's the people who are like fully aware like that they're in a cult and they're like, I like cults and I want to get high up so I can sucker people, or they know it's a pyramid scheme and they're like, yeah, but I want to be one of the guys ripping people off, like that's like the darker side that I don't even know if I have it within me to kind of comprehend. Like, some people get suckered in, but there's some people who like literally want. I'm starting to realize I think some of my fellow citizens actually don't like the country and don't really like the history. They don't really like there is some seedier stuff going on for sure. Corey said multi-level marketings inculcate their marks against logic by prepping them ahead of time. Those small-minded people will tell you logic. The wage slaves that don't have the vision you have will tell you, oh yeah, for sure. And the more modern version of multi-level marketing is crypto scams, where it's like, no, guys. I know we sold like 80% of this to insiders who are going to do a rug pull, but trust us, you're smarter than that. You wouldn't fall for a rug pull. Are you kidding me? And then they do a rug pull. It's just, anyhow. That's the kind of the part I sympathize with is marks that got suckered in. They learned all the new speak, so they can't understand. That's also another tactic of MLMs, multi-level marketing. So have new speak and kind of your own like special acronyms that no outsiders understand. So it kind of starts creating division between you and the people around you. Where it's like there's specific terminology. This always scared me. I've told you guys like I am a Christian. I'm not like a right-wing crazy Christian, in my opinion, but I am a Christian. But one of the things that scares me about religion is newspeak and things like that, where somebody will use a lot of terms that like no one outside of that is going to use. That to me is really weird. Like, you know, they have like their own vernacular vocabulary. I always view that suspiciously. Like if I see somebody like pray and they're using words we don't use, you know, like not normal words, like words you didn't like, you learn from the culture, not from your own brain, you know. That to me is a little scary, is like the kind of newspeak type stuff. And I see it, you know, I'll see it in religion. You see it definitely in like multi-level marketing, you know. Corey, that I don't know if you coined that, but that's pretty brilliant. Corey said, "Pride cometh before the rug pull." Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's playing off of people's pride. It's like how a really bad used car salesman. You know, usually a bad used car salesman is going to play off of the pride of the person. Yeah, honestly, I might be a good mark with that because I am a sucker for a deal. I like a deal. I like working to get a lower rate on my car. So I might actually be like a pretty good mark for this. I think of myself as not, which actually makes me think maybe I am a good mark for this. But yeah, used car salesmen, you know, are like, you're a man who knows a deal. You know what I mean? Like they're going to play up on the pride of the person where it's like, you know, I've even seen used car people, even when I've tried to buy a car, they have tried to pull the whole like, you know, well, your wife isn't going to go for this, but you're a smart man. You're not going to let your wife mess up a deal. And I'm like, no, actually, you guys misunderstand. Like, I trust my wife like more than anyone on the planet. But I can see how that could work with somebody who's like, yeah, I am smarter than my wife. You know, where it's like, for me, I'm dumb and I want to run things by my wife because I'm a stupid person and she's pretty intelligent. You know, like it's but for somebody who's like, yeah, I am smart. I am the smartest person I know. I know a deal. They see me for what I am. And then they're just rife to get, you know, sold a car with like sawdust in the engine, you know. It's wild, guys. It's wild times. Oh yeah. Dylan also forgot about the other angle. Dylan mentioned the other angle too, which is, don't forget, Corey. It's, hey girly, I haven't seen you since high school. Do you want to be a girl boss babe? Don't you want your own schedule? And that's the kind of more the scam. That's like, don't you want to go door to door and host like, you know, candle parties? It's candle parties or makeup. Don't you want to sell makeup to all your friends and get them to give you money for the makeup and then give that money to us so you can buy more makeup to sell? Damn. Whatever. It's kind of the same scam, but it's a little scary to me when that scam is being run at a national level, where we are in pretty dark waters. Now, is it guaranteed that we aren't going to survive it? Nah, you know, probably not. I mean, I'll say this: I'm very thankful to live in California at this point in time. If we were living in like the Midwest or the South, or like in a state with like less of a strong economy than California, I would be much more nervous. Not that California is immune to it. Like, we're probably going to see a lot of pain from this, but it's like when your state is like the 7th largest economy in the world, it's like, okay, we can kind of run, we possibly can right the ship and hopefully be the last to fall. If if they all fall, hopefully we'll be the last one. Is that dark to say? To me, that's been a comfort lately. It's like, well, at least we'll be the last ones standing. It's a wild one, guys. It's a wild one. It's unprecedented waters, full of a lot of oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of some other stuff that's been interesting. Oh, okay. So the multi-level marketing kind of scam, like the people who've fallen for the scam are one thing. What is one of the other things? Oh, yeah. I wrote a song about this. False equivalence is driving me nuts. Like it has become one of the biggest justifiers of like horrible behavior. Where it's like, well, everybody's a little like, you're like, okay, well, the wealthiest person in the world is currently, without being elected, like overriding the power of Congress by just like hiring and firing and closing entire departments that we actually voted for, right? Like our representatives that we put we the people put in the government voted for these things. And usually the way to get rid of things that were voted for is to use your democratic power and vote it out. You don't like something at least in this country, in theory, if you don't like something, you go to the ballot box, right? That's the whole point, right? And so there will be things you don't like that are law or not law, and in a functioning. I know that like some of the more right-leaning people will be like, we aren't in a democracy, it's a democratic republic, and then they want to give you like a civics lesson, and it's like, I understand that, but the point being, in our system, the proper way to kind of do that is through the courts or through the vote. Like, that's it. Courts, vote. And so like the complete dismantling of our system this isn't like a both sides thing. I know there's people who've overstepped executive power. I know there's like been corruption in the past on both sides, but it's like, can you imagine? Okay, imagine a scenario where, you're a parent and you walk in a room and your kid has punched their sibling right in the face and broken their nose. And then the reason they did that was that the sibling, like a day ago, had accidentally bumped into their sibling. Like they had accidentally bumped into them. The other one was resentful. And so, I mean, technically they've both done wrongs. You know what I mean? So, but if you're a good parent, you aren't going to go in there and be like, you're both wrong. Like, it's all kind of the same. Well, on one side, you just broke your sibling's nose. On the other, they did accidentally bump into you 2 days ago. So, I mean, both sides do it. It's that kind of both sidesism has been driving me nuts. Oh, Scott said, growing up, my mom tried almost every multi-level marketing there was. It drove me nuts. Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, I think you're a mark. Like, you're kind of a mark if you fall for that stuff. And I think that's one of the reasons people get like sunk cost fallacies too, because nobody wants to be a mark. Nobody wants to be the sucker, right? You don't want to be the person who got scammed. Nobody does. That's kind of how a lot of scammers work too, right? Scammers will get somebody to sink in some money, and then when the person it starts dawning on them that they're getting scammed, they'll the shattering that would do of the person's view of their own intelligence and themselves is like bad enough to where sometimes people will, even kind of knowing they're getting scammed, continue with the scam because it's too much to digest what they've just lost. Right? Okay. On that positive note, I'm going to put on a trailer. We're going to finish this up. I don't like this bend here. I think I'm going to actually redo this. So I'm going to get rid of, because I was just doubling down on that line, and that line is ugly. Like that little chunk there was not working. I want to get in a sunk cost fallacy myself there with a line that sucks, you know, just because I made it, so I got to stick with it. Okay. There we go. I'll be right back. I'm going to put on a trailer and then we'll continue our robot illustration. Dylan said, I wonder what the numbers would be if there was a revote and who was right, then voted left. Undecided voters, would they vote? I don't think they would change. I think that a good chunk of the public has been lost to a cult. And I think it's like a death cult. And so there's like science denialism. There's newspeak. They just kind of believe whatever. And the reason I think this is like, I know people who like a month ago were railing about the cost in the economy and how Trump was going to save them from, money and money problems and stuff. And then now are like within the same breath being like, well, I mean, tariffs will raise the prices of everything, but we need to, pretty much trust our dear leader and kind of trust the process because it's a pain that we have to go through. And it's like, wait, what? But like, that was something like a week ago you were saying, yeah, we don't like that we're going through monetary pain. It's horrible. And now it's like, well, the ends justify the means, right? And then next week, if Trump changes his mind and is like, you know what, I've changed my mind from the tariff policy because we need to do this, then they'll just change their tune and instantly go with that. Like it's kind of a weird time where it's not even a policy anymore. It's just kind of like going with whatever Daddy Trump says, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to do what Papa Trump tells them to do. Let's see here. It's a weird time is all I'm saying, All right. And I also kind of think that there's a dark seedy underbelly of this country that's becoming less of an underbelly that like literally wants authoritarianism. Like they want a king. They want a king that'll own the libs, I think that's a big I think that's a big chunk of people. A bigger chunk than I had previously suspected. But I don't know. I mean, I still hold out hope, that I think people can change. People can have really bad opinions. People can get in a cult, get sucked in a cult or a multi-level marketing scheme, and then see the error of their ways and be like, you know what? I got scammed. That doesn't mean any less of me. It's just that I need to kind of be a little smarter next time. And also, I need to get out before I lose everything. Right? I think that's a pretty fair assessment. That like maybe there's a couple people, but I'm starting to think less than I originally thought. I thought a while ago, I thought a lot of people are generally good and if not, they're misled. There's a war going on between the rich and the poor, and quite often the poor get suckered into thinking that they and the rich are on the same team, and then they get fleeced, right? That's how I used to view it. And I still, to an extent, I'm being a little hyperbolic. I, to an extent, still believe that. That's one of the reasons I still have hope. But I do think less like, again, less people than I originally thought are kind of, yeah. Okay. We will be right back. Okay. And let's put on our. Okay, let's put on Wordzoid. I'll be right back.
Well, Peter, since I'm such a big music fan, I'm gonna have to go with Karen Carpenter. Oh, Stu, I'm sorry. That's the incorrect answer. Trish, what you got for us?
I'm gonna go with Kim Gordon.
All right, let's check that answer. Kim Gordon. Do we have a Kim Gordon? Yes, and that means you're our new Wordzoid champion, Trish. Dale, tell Trish what she's won. Trish, you've won a copy of 2 stories, a memoir of faith and mental illness. Handwritten, hand-drawn, and handed to you by artist and writer Joshua Kemble. But wait, that's not all. You've also won a copy of Jacob's Apartment, the story of a doomed romance. What happens when you take Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and put it in a blender with Ghost World? You get Jacob's Apartment, written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. Trish, thank you for playing Wordzoid.
All right, great job, Trish.
I was told I was gonna get a lifetime supply of paper towels.
All right, I'm back. What do we got here? Let's see. Scott said, I'm so glad that my dad, who has been a Republican his whole life, is smart enough to see through Trump's BS. I don't know what I would do if he was a Trumper. I think there's a lot of people who've just been, they've talked about this, and, I think there's like a bit of a funnel effect that happened where it kind of started with like, hyperbolic radio show hosts, kind of like, you're like Limbaugh's, and, these guys were like kind of edgy, saying out there things, but originally they're kind of listening to it for comedy, or they're listening to like the Joe Rogan podcast because it's like, it's talking about like men's stuff and like it's interesting, kind of weird conversations. They're kind of conspiracy theories, but it's like, it's fun to like listen to like Alex Jones just like go off about, the gay frogs and stuff, right? I think it starts like that. I think it starts as a meme, a little bit. It's like, it starts as like, at least what I've seen in our area, where it'll start as a meme or a reaction where it's like, oh, okay, people don't want to be edgy, so I'm going to be a little edgy. But it kind of starts becoming that thing where, have you ever been in a circle of people who are making kind of edgy jokes, and then somebody says a joke it's not edgy, it's not funny, it's just a really messed up thing to say, and they look at like the crowd that are all like, I think we've all had that where you're with a group of friends and then the one person kind of says something that's like just inappropriate, like it's not even funny, it's not, there's no punchline, it's not even a joke, it's just like revealing that they have like some kind of dark thoughts about, about entire groups of people or something. You're like, whoa. We were making kind of jokes here, dude. I think it starts like that. It starts as like a entertainment. And then I think before you know it, they're kind of sucked into the funnel where their reality and their terminology kind of like a multi-level marketing scheme where it starts kind of reasonable, where it's like, well, I just invest like $15 in this thing and then try it out. And if it doesn't work, or a cult, where it's like, oh, I'll just, audit this. Auditing thing sounds really interesting. I'll just try it out and like, see if it improves my public speaking. It starts as like something kind of like reasonable. And then I think it just becomes like, before you know it, there's people who are like memeing their way into being actual Nazis. Like, I think I froze. Did I freeze? Oh, no. Okay, we're still here. But yeah, there's people who are like memeing their way into being actual Nazis, like a couple days ago, like Elon Musk literally did a Sig Heil, like no question, no like excuse, and he did it twice. And now, did he do that because he's a Nazi? I don't think so. But what I think he was doing was the meme of it, right? Where it's like, it's going to piss off a bunch of liberals, right? And then eventually, like, we can, I can respond to those liberals by being like, what do you mean? That wasn't a salute. And then you show a bunch of pictures, that are nothing like what you did, like a bunch of reels, But what happens is people get desensitized to the action like that like around my, my grandpa's generation. You did anything remotely like that on video and you would never have a career, I mean, because they understood the weight of that gesture. Like that gesture isn't just a meme. It's like there's a danger to that. Here's the thing. We're in a new world where like you can kind of just do that, get away with it, and then supporters of it will be like, oh, they're just overreacting. But here's the thing, like, okay, why am I heated up about this? Okay, I'm going to get into it. So part of why I have trouble not talking about this, even when I'm working on art, right, is so the area I live, is this, it's like a pretty big population, but it's very red. Like it's a pretty red district. And the other day there was a student-led protest of the immigration policies. A lot of kids, like I'm talking like, young kids that are either related to immigrants or are immigrants themselves, right, did a school walkout. And there was a news post in a local kind of right-leaning news site that's local here, talking about these students who did the protest. And I look in the comments, and these are people in my valley, in where I live, who are like, why are they flying the Mexican flag? They should be flying the American flag. And they're like, well, if you like Mexico so much, why don't you go back? Like they're saying stuff like that. Like, and I look and it's just hundreds of comments, not anonymous, of people just straight up dehumanizing kids that are concerned because people they know are getting deported. Right? To me, that's where we've crossed the line from like, oh, you've been misled to like, oh, you actually want to see people hurt. Like you want to see, like poor people hurt, that to me is like, that's one of the things. Dylan said, I follow a lesbian right-winger, and she was like, no, he was not making the salute. He was giving out his heart. And I think I commented, stop gaslighting yourself and others. The thing is, it's the trick of it is you get people to doubt their own sight and their own mind and their own rational judgment. Like, any rational human being watches that video and you know exactly what that is. It's not like, that's not one of those weird, like I've definitely seen times where like, somebody's overstepping and it's like, hey, give the person a chance. Like they clearly weren't, like it could have been something else, right? When you have something clear as day like that and you have people still willing to toe the line, again, originally I'd think, oh, they've been sucked in, right? But the reason I think I'm a little more disturbed is those comments about those students, who, like anyone approaching it with empathy, even if they were pro what's going on with the immigration thing, right? Even if they were like saying, like maybe they're of the opinion of like, it is sad for people, but it's best for our country to not, have illegal immigration, whatever it is, right? You'd still think they'd approach like kids with empathy, like kids, like kids with concern, like maybe just empathize with a little bit and be like, hey, if I were in that spot, like that would kind of suck. But they dehumanized this entire group of people. And again, I think they started it as a meme. It was like, it was the it's like the Trump memes, where it's like, oh, he says a horrible thing about people, but he doesn't actually believe that, right? But then they start actually being the thing that they're memeing about. Like I've seen on the right, like people responded to Musk's thing by doing the salute themselves online and being like, oh, I was just saying hi and stuff. Like they're making it a meme. And I'm telling you, we're at a point where like we're going to have a meme dictator. We have a meme unelected bureaucrat who's running a meme audit of the government. And it's all laughs and giggles till everything collapses and you have like the wealthiest man in the world and an oligarchy, and it's like, haha, it was worth it for the memes. It's a strange time to live and have seen this kind of this slow decay. And I like memes. I like jokes, but I think like it again, it's like that thing where, we've all seen that moment where, somebody who's like socially a little like more socially clueless, right? Here's other people making edgy jokes and they make the joke that's like, it's not a joke and it's like a little creepy and it kind of shuts down the conversation, right? Everybody's had that experience. That's where we're at as a country. Where it's like, they're not joking, guys. They're not joking. And even the people who think they're joking are potentially going to bring the destruction of this country, like the entire destruction of our system of government, or at least our Constitution, and that's I don't know, like that bums me out because I actually like the Constitution. I don't have a tattoo of it like a lot of the people who are kind of cheerleading this whole process, but I've actually read the thing, I've taught the thing, and I like the thing, right? Does that make sense? So it's not a meme for me. The Constitution's not a meme for me. It's something I treasure and think was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool thing in the history of humanity, I think it's pretty cool we haven't had a world war in a while, and I kind of want to keep things that way. I kind of think it's cool we're over, or at least we were temporarily over land acquisition and colonialism. I thought that was like a really good step of progress, and it's like now we're talking about potentially doing colonialism again, and it is a strange time to be alive. But again, like on a more positive note, it's fascinating. It's one of those ones I don't know if I would have, like, if you talked to me 10 years ago and you're like, hey, this is where the country's going to be at. This is who's going to be in office. This is what the national dialogue is going to be like. I would be like, no way. There's just no way. And now here we are. So I don't know. I don't know where things go. That's all. I don't want to be a doomer. Dylan said, no, Joshua, empathy is a sin, remember? Yeah, that's right. I think the VP was saying this was the most infuriating thing as a person who's a believer, right? Like I'm a Christian, and there was a point where I think JD Vance said that the Bible teaches that you put your family first, and then your friends, and then your whatever, and then finally your country, and then strangers. And I was like, reading that, I was like, what? Like, what Bible is that? Like, there's like a classic story in the Bible called the Good Samaritan, right? Which is all about a person outside of their own best interests, putting themselves at discomfort to help like somebody who historically his people were at war with, you know, because he stopped and had empathy for a stranger. And it was a metaphor for Christ, right? That's the branch of Christianity I'm familiar with, you know. So this Christianity where you're supposed to put family first and like basically follow a survivalist strategy, that's a weird brand that I've never heard of. Yeah, it's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. Again, it's really weird. It's just weird times, guys. Weird times. So anyhow, why am I talking about it? I don't know. You know, if you're not in the US, you might get it a little more. Why I'd be a little concerned. If you're in the US, especially if you're one of the people like kind of sucked in that doomsday cult, you may not get it, you know. You might just be like, it's overreaction. Same on both sides kind of thing. But the both sidesism thing is insane to me. That's just insane. Like, have we lost our, I don't know, have we lost our bearing, like our ability to, you know, use our minds and kind of judge? Like, do you think it's equivalent? Like, I don't know. It's just, it's wild to me. But again, I think the part that concerns me is seeing those comments on, like, you know, there's kids who are like literally just concerned about their family members, you know, being like deported from the country, whether you think it's right or not that they're getting deported. You'd think like at least you would be like a little empathetic because it's a kid, you know? I don't know. It's just that to me, that's where that just crosses the line where I'm like, really? Like, there's just no, yeah, it's wild, you know? And we're not talking about like, you know, like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, it's bizarre to me that there's like this disgust felt for like the poorest people on the planet, you know? It's just, I don't know. It's just, to me, that brings up a side of the country I don't want to think is a good chunk of the US, but I think, again, I think it starts as a meme and then it becomes a real thing. It's like, you know, the bully thing where they're like punching you and going, ha, 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 just joking, ha, 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 just joking. And then eventually they just start beating kids up, you know? I don't know. Paul said he's causing chaos that's dividing the people and weakening the country so he can get power. It's all about power for this weirdo. Yes. Yes. Many people who claim to love the Constitution really don't care about only one particular amendment. Yep. And not even the whole amendment, right? It's just the first part. They just ignore. You're like, I have the right to bear arms. That's it. That's it for me. And it's like, well, what about well-regulated? Nope. Just the right to wear, the right to bear arms. What about freedom of speech? By freedom of speech, do you mean saying horrible things and people not being able to say anything in response? That's okay. Anyhow, we're gonna. I'm rambling a little too much, but that is one thing I'll say, like as a like kind of last thing on this subject. That is one of my pet peeves lately, where people seem to misunderstand. Have you guys noticed this? There's like a current kind of reinterpretation of what freedom of speech means, where it's literally like, you have the freedom to speak, but you don't have the freedom to speak against speech you don't like. And it's like, wait. That the whole point of freedom of speech is to protect speech that goes against the general consensus. Like, to protect speech that somebody maybe, you know, like let's say you want to criticize the president, you know, that's kind of one of the great things about freedom of speech. The government can't stop you from saying it, right? Freedom of speech has never meant that you like can just say whatever you want with like no repercussions. It's weird. It's weird to me that that's, you know, become the new norm of like that. Is it's not a freedom. When I hear somebody saying freedom of speech a lot, what I'm starting to hear or starting to understand is they don't want freedom of speech. They want freedom to say terrible things and not have any consequence for the terrible things they said. Yeah, Dylan was saying, I don't think these people have read the Constitution or their Bibles. Yeah, I would agree with you. I kind of feel like, yeah, it's the memes, you know, it's like meme Christianity. It's just memes, meme Constitution. Like, do you see what I'm saying? I don't know, with the meme thing. It's something I've started noticing where I'm like, I think it's just like it's like they like the meme of it, not the thing itself. Yeah, I don't know. Very strange, but hopefully we survive it. We'll see. Some dark times. Dark times. Dark times. Okay. What do we got? This should be thicker. And I need this to go here. Boom. There we go. And then this should be there. There we go. Paul said, it reminds me of my ex who said I was controlling when I didn't do what she said. Yeah. That's actually a good point. Yeah, it's very much like that, where it's like, why are you so controlling? And it's like, well, wait, no. You're trying to, what do you mean? Like, Mai laughed and said she was sorry for you, Paul. Paul's in it. Paul's a happy man now. Paul's living the good life. He has rid himself of the shackles of pants. It's a joke. We always joke that Paul is always wearing no pants. Yes. Maya was saying, I'm sure he appreciates that. Paul said, dark times resist. I agree. It's just, I don't know how. Here's the thing I'm trying to figure out. How do you, how do we resist? You know, it's an interesting thing. I think part of it is just, talking about it. Like, I think that, I think that there is a silencing effort. That's the funny thing. So it's like, again, the free speech folks, but there's like a silencing effort that comes to artists or anybody, like, really, where it's like, you can't talk about this because it's a danger to your work. Like, well, if you talk, like, I even had a couple people on here who followed me, like one who used to give a lot of super chats and stuff, like very supportive, but because I mentioned my political viewpoint, they basically unsubscribed and were like, I'm never supporting your thing. And they had messaged me like as if because they gave me money, they can control my speech. It was really weird, where they were like, I want to support you, but you really gotta stop saying things that are offensive to the right wingers. And I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like capitulating, especially when it's something that I think is moral. Like, I don't think that's okay. Like, I'm that kind of old school American with that. I don't know if that makes sense. So I think that is part of it, is like, don't let them convince you to not speak, you know? Remember that quote, the classic quote, right? Where it's like, first they came for, I can't, I'm going to butcher it, but it's basically saying like, I said nothing. And then they came for me and it was too late to speak. Right. So say something. Don't that's one thing. I think it shouldn't be normalized or both sides out of what's going on. It's like, this isn't a normal corruption thing. There's corruption all the time. There's bad politicians all the time. This is not normal. This one is different. There's a difference between okay, let's think of something that's an analogy. Okay, so there are crimes that are committed, like crimes of passion, right? So sometimes somebody loses control of themselves and murders someone, and it's a horrible thing to do. People should not do that. People should not kill people, right? Thou shalt not kill. This is like pretty standard kind of bad thing. However, let's say that somebody finds out that they were wronged in an incredible fashion. They lose their mind. They lose their sense of place. They snap, or maybe they're schizophrenic, right? So they're not even conscious, like, and they snap and somebody is killed. Horrible thing. One of the worst things you could do to another human being. Well, probably the worst thing. I shouldn't say one of the worst. Okay. That is not equivalent to being a serial killer. Does that make sense? Like, both are bad, but one is kind of worse. I hope that makes sense. That's kind of where we're at, is like, people are like, well, I mean, if you think about it, like, it's all kind of the same. And it's like, no, this is unusually, this one's a little different. I know both sides can be bad. I know that, politicians are all probably a little corrupt. I know that, America doesn't have the cleanest history in the world, but this one's a little different, right? Can we acknowledge that? This one's a little worse than usual. Dylan was saying, I've been seeing people buying banned books or books that are possibly going to be banned so they can read them, like 1984, Brave New World. I kind of want to do it. You should. Yeah, what is the point of being a gazillionaire? It's really strange, Paul. I agree. It's very strange and confusing. All right. I'm going to go ahead and play another thing, and then we're going to try to finish this up. I have to finish this illustration. I might have to end the stream in about 10 to 15 minutes because I'm supposed to... Oh, okay, cool. Okay, never mind. Corey said I can take my time. So I'm going to finish up this illustration first, and then I will do Corey's thing. So, because I'm cooking here on the... I think that's what the kids say now. I actually think that's of like kind of more modern slang. I think "let him cook" is pretty good. That's pretty good slang. I'm an old man, so that's new to me, but it's fun. All right, we're gonna play. Let's play the full of Frank's Adventures at the Library, and I'll be right back.
Our heroic adventurers fought orcs, monsters, sorcerers, necromancers. Now they find themselves in front of a mystical library. What shall they find? It's all in the roll of the dice.
We've come this far. There's great power behind this door. I can feel it. We just have to get past it. This door is no match for my axe. I shall chop it down. You always want to use brute strength. Why don't you try knocking? We'll try it your way. You may enter. The library is open to all those who seek knowledge. Feel free to look through our tomes. maybe you'll find the answers you seek. I sense great power here, and it's behind those shelves. Indeed, there are powerful items hidden behind these shelves, but you can only get there through the enchanted words. Do you have those words? I believe I do.
Tremble before the Cremble.
There is great power. Look at that glove. Must be so powerful. That is not where I sense this power. I must get closer. I found them. I found these sacred manuscripts written by Joshua Kemble. Behold, I now possess 2 stories and Jacob's apartment. Please tell us more about 2 stories and Jacob's apartment, and who is Joshua Kemble? Xeric Award-winning cartoonist Joshua Kemble is a freelance artist, graphic designer, and author. 2 Stories is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. Jacob's Apartment is a coming-of-age graphic novel in the vein of Ghost Road and Fun Home. It weaves together the threads of spiritual faith, identity, purpose, love, and loss to create an engrossing world in which waking and sleeping dreams collide. You have made your choice. The passage is now closed. Wait, can I get that glove? No. Oh. All right, let's go.
All right, so we are back. We're getting there. We're kind of rocking our robot illustration. There's a robot. He's kind of pouring a bunch of shapes into a funnel, a bunch of data. And said data is, I just realized this is a tube. Let me show you a trick. One of the cool things about Illustrator. So what I'm going to do actually to do this tube, this may not be so cool as it was, because I know there's other drawing programs now that are pretty amazing. But I'm going to just draw the center of this tube. All the way to where it connects here. Trying to kind of keep the line clean. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it super thick. Let's make it a little less thick. And I'm going to go object expand. And then boom. Oh, that's weird. Why isn't it working? Very strange. There we go. Now, I have the tube kind of perfectly parallel. Right? Pretty cool. I don't know. I like that trick. It's an old Illustrator trick. Have you ever had to draw like a bunch of noodles where you wanted to draw every single noodle? As you should, you know, draw noodles. Noodles are delicious. Who doesn't like noodles? Dylan said, cool. Yeah, I like that one. It's a fun one. Okay. Yeah, so it's just a strange time to be around, and you know, I know the word gaslighting is overused, but I do feel like we're being gaslit quite often where, you know, even before the election and stuff, everybody was like, no, not going to do Project 2025. Definitely not, you know. And like day one, it's just every step from that, you know. You know, it's a scary time, you know, to be alive. But I will say this, if the "I told you so" thing is worth any sort of credit, any sort of thing, I'm definitely feeling that. Although the downside is I always kind of wanted to be wrong. Like, I wanted to be wrong about all of this stuff. You kind of don't want to see everything fall apart just to be like, haha, I was right. I'd rather be like, oh, I was just wrong and these people are actually pretty cool, you know? That would be amazing if I woke up tomorrow and found out none of this stuff is going to be damaging, you know? I'd be the first to be stoked about it, but nice. Dylan said, I had spaghetti for dinner tonight, so noodles are good. Good choice. The world is a much better place with noodles, okay? All right. With oodles of noodles, even. I'm here all night, guys. Paul said, I'm surprised to see you on a Monday night. Well, it is a holiday, so that is part of why you were seeing me on a Monday night, because to me, this is very equivalent to a Sunday night. However, I have so much crap I have to do today. So much stuff, because when I'm done with this, well, at minimum, I have to get a lesson plan done, and then we'll see. If I have it in me to do a comic page, if I can do it before and be done before 2 in the morning, then maybe I'll do that as well. We'll see. We just have to kind of gauge it. What I will tell you is the last year or so, though, like, things have been so busy and crazy, with so much change and so much busyness and so much uncertainty, that I have gotten a little bit better at being like, well, I'm going to get done what I can get done, and that's what I can get done. Because there's just no other, like, when I practically think about all the things I need to accomplish this year, it just seems impossible. But so far, every week I've managed to get everything I need to get done. I'm not sure how, you know. So I'm just kind of taking things day by day, even this. It'd be fun to say it was drugs that were enabling me to do this. My wife was joking. It's drugs, isn't it? That would be fun, but no. I never understood that. Like, well, I mean, technically, I am drinking caffeine right now, so I guess if you consider that a drug, definitely caffeine. I am definitely powered by caffeine as of late. But I've that brings up a really interesting thing. I've always been mystified by people who can function and do, you know, like, drugs and stuff to, like, get through crazy busy times. I think that's insane. I was talking about some episode of Desperate Housewives. I don't remember that. That was a pretty funny show, though. Okay. But yeah, I've never understood people who can do that, like, functional users of things. I've never been that kind of person. Yeah, Jim was saying Josh is fueled by the power of Grayskull. Well, that goes without saying. I think I'm just a weird, like, to me, the only thing that's been working for me is I tend to be, for better or worse, a person who, when I set out to do something, I tend to do it. Sometimes, to a fault. Like, sometimes I don't even need to do the thing, but I've set out to do it, so I'm going to do it. Does that make sense? So it's like, it's a positive when it comes to things like, hey, I need to get a credential. It's like, okay, I'm going to do that. And hell or high water, I'm going to make it happen. But it's bad when it comes to things like, well, you don't really have to do this thing. And I'm like, yeah, but I said I was going to do it. Yeah. But it's I think it's probably a good habit to have if you're a graphic novelist, right? Because it is hard to make those things, and it is easy to come up with a billion reasons not to. And when you're the type of person who doesn't allow those reasons, like, again, I'm going to do it. It's just going to happen. I like that. Dylan said, I do agree with Jim, but also Joshua is fueled by the power of a pretty princess TM. If by pretty princess you mean my wonderful wife, yes. My wife is amazing. It is fun. Like, one of the things I like about how long my wife and I have been married is we really are kind of like a team that has to get through like we've gotten through some pretty crazy things. And it is pretty fun when you get older and you've got a team member, somebody on your side, somebody who understands your weirdness. I think that's pretty cool. Your weirdness. Yes, that's my name. My name is Your Weirdness. All right, what do we got here? We have this. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. All I need to do is the lines. The lines are what take the most time. Then we'll add the shades. It would be funny if I just added actual shades. Like, it's just funny to me, okay? Funny to me. Okay, offset path. Okay, here we go. Let's do 0.03. And let's duplicate. Oh. And final one. Okay, perfect. I know this is weird, but what I'm doing right now is like basically closing these all as shapes. And then kind of making them into separate little shapey things. That's the official term for it. Okay, now we're going to do our Okay, I'm going to try this first. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. Because what I want to do here is actually, okay, I have a better idea. We're going to do here, this will be the chopper here for this. Then we're going to chop this, and then we'll kind of work chopping a little bit more later. Okay. Figured it out. Kind of doing a little bit of, it's funny, this is taking longer than a lot of the that's the way this works. This stuff always takes a little longer than you expect. Oh. There we go. Okay, there we go. Now, what I want, oh, how did that happen? Did I accidentally, oh, okay, I gotta go back. Thought I had one of those. We'll get there. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to just do a couple things. So here, this will be square. 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 And then I think we've got our little pie chart thing. There we go. Look how official that looks. Whew. Dylan said, I've been watching Kid Cosmic on Netflix. I highly recommend it. Okay, explain. Pitch it. Why do you recommend Kid Cosmic? What do you recommend about it? I want to know. I want to know why. Why should I check it out? Why should I care? I don't know why I'm saying that in that voice. Tell me why. Okay. Save. All right. I want to know though, like, is it I don't know if I know what Kid Cosmic is. Is that a animation? Am I just like wildly ignorant for not knowing Kid Cosmic? Let me know. Okay. Okay. Then I'm going to do, these are going to be moving this way. And then we're going to kind of move this a little bit lower. And then, just to make it fun, oh. Oh, let's actually have that be the same. There we go. Okay, last thing is the keyboard, and then we can get into shading. It's a story about a little kid in a small desert town who finds a magical space stones. Him and his friends have to use the stones to save the galaxy from alien threats. It's animated. Good art style, too. Sounds pretty cool. Sounds pretty cool. Okay. Keyboard time. Kind of don't like this as one. I want this as like 2.5. There we go. And let's do one more of these here. And then finally, we'll do one more line that's like a little simpler. Maybe it's like a 2. So it'll be a 1. And finally, let's get all those keys in there. And now we can get our long areas of the keyboard. And Dylan said Paul said drawing a keyboard 0% fun. Well, this isn't even the most, this is going to be a pretty basic keyboard. I'm not going to do anything super fancy. All right. That gives me some basics. All right, and then one last thing, which should be this little mark here. There we go. And last lines. These ones shouldn't be too hard, but who knows? All right, and this one. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. We're getting closer. Paul said it looks like your face is on the monitor. I don't know what that means. Oh, like on the monitor of the keyboard. Okay, I see what you're saying. That's funny. Getting there, guys. Yeah, it's like that. Here, let me see if I can get that arranged for you, Paul, for your amusement. So see, I'm at the monitor of the computer. You guys, it's a computer within a computer. If you're watching this on your computer, mind blown. Okay. There's the sound of your brain exploding from just the sheer meta brilliance of what just went down on my live stream. You're welcome. People are going to be like, I was a fan of this live stream and then my brain exploded, and that was not okay. I felt like everything was fine until my head exploded, and then I was a little upset and was like, maybe I shouldn't be watching this stream that makes my head explode, you know? See, Paul said mind blown. I don't even know how he's typing after his mind got blown that hardcore, you know? All right. What do we got here? We're almost done with the line work, which is the hardest, most time-consuming part. And then from there, if you're a Mr. Kerr and you're watching this, I'm sorry. I will do the video shortly, soon. Paul said brains are all over his room. I'm sorry, Paul. I didn't mean to explode your brain. I'm sorry. It just, you know, it's the mind-bending nature of this show that can happen. Jim said, Paul, you get right back to bed, young man. No scream time for you tomorrow night. You are grounded. It's late. It's a fair point. Paul said, Corey said, no worries. He's hanging with Malia. Nice. Okay, cool. Because I'm thinking about 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Better be 20 minutes because I'm in trouble if this goes past 9. That does not bode well for my future. Okay. Paul said, good night, Josh. Jim is being bossy. Yeah, what time is it where you're at, Paul? It is probably pretty wild amount of time. Oh, Jim sent me a copy of his amazing Full Fungus book that you can get on Amazon. And because I bought one of the original copies and it was missing a couple of characters, and the new copy has a complete biography of my character, Joshua Kemble, that's in the Full Fungus. And it's a wonderful biography. So anyhow, it's pretty fun. And also, it has Gary's character, Dr. Hodges, as well, as it should. All right, so let's do that chord, and then we're done with the line art, which is wonderful, magical. I don't like that tangent. You see how close those were? Okay, object, expand. Oh, there we go. And this will be one of the thin lines. The thin line, guys. The thin line. And should be no fill there. All right. We're getting there. I love it. I think we got all our line art done, so that's good. Before I forget, I'm going to make an invisible path. Oh, wait. I don't want to do that yet. Okay. We're going to save. Paul said, I got the book, the Full Fungus book, and it's so good. It is really good. The biography's in there, the art, it's great. And it's fun to kind of see like more in depth, like the worlds that Jim builds, because I think sometimes people don't realize like he has entire biographies of like side characters in his stories, and it's kind of fun to have that shared. Okay, so I need to do a little bit of shading. This is going to be pretty light on shading, but there's still some areas that where I need solid black. But I also need to use the restroom. So I'm going to put on a longer one, Frank's Adventures at the Library again. I'll be right back.
Our heroic adventurers fought orcs, monsters, sorcerers, necromancers. Now they find themselves in front of a mystical library. What shall they find? It's all in the roll of the dice.
We've come this far. There's great power behind this door. I can feel it. We just have to get past it. This door is no match for my axe. I shall chop it down. You always want to use brute strength. Why don't you try knocking? We'll try it your way. You may enter. The library is open to all those who seek knowledge. Feel free to look through our tomes. Maybe you'll find the answers you seek. I sense great power here, and it's behind those shelves. Indeed, there are powerful items hidden behind these shelves, but you can only get there through the enchanted words. Do you have those words? I believe I do.
Tremble before the Cremble.
There is great power. Look at that glove. Must be so powerful. That is not where I sense this power. I must get closer. I found them. I found the sacred manuscripts written by Joshua Kemble. Behold, I now possess 2 stories and Jacob's apartment. Please tell us more about 2 stories and Jacob's apartment, and who is Joshua Kemble? Xeric Award-winning cartoonist Joshua Kemble is a freelance artist, graphic designer, and author. 2 Stories is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. Jacob's Apartment is a...
All right. I cut it short because we've played it about 3 times now on here, but it's a nice long video, so bought me time. Valuable time. Jim said, Josh learned a few things about himself in that book. It's true. I have a totally insanely cool biography that I wasn't even aware of, but it's pretty amazing. I love it. And again, I'm honored to be a part of a Lujan, a legendary Lujan cartoon. You guys ever get that thing when you started getting into comics or animation where it's like, oh, that's like the Sunday paper? Like, I definitely got that as a kid a lot. It's like, oh, you want to do comics? That's great. Like Kathy? And I'm like, I don't know why it was always like, usually it was Kathy. I don't know why. Not that Kathy was a bad comic. It was just always kind of like, no, not really. Sure, yeah, like Kathy. That's what I want to do. Oh, you do the cartoons like Scooby-Doo, huh? Like Scooby-Doo? Is that what you do, Mr. Levon? I don't know why that's the voice I do, but that is, if I'm doing an older lady or gentleman, it usually sounds like that. Oh, you guys, I don't like... See, this kind of worked when it was shaded, but I don't like how this is kind of there. I want this to be a little more pinched. So I'm going to alter it just a little bit. Maybe we skedaddle with some of those lines. That looks more appropriate. Looks a little more appropriate there. Okay, let's see where our other shadows are going to be. The nice thing about like doing really tight roughs for a client is it does a lot of the guesswork for you. So when it gets to like finals, you're not having to reinvent the wheel. And rarely are you going to have like wild amounts of revisions. Because the client kind of got a pretty good perception of what it's like. What's funny is with these roughs, sometimes I like the roughs a little more than I like the finals, but they have a specific kind of look they want for their pieces. So we're getting there. Just adding some shadow. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows. Whatever happened to the shadow? I feel like there was a really, from what I recall, I don't think the movie was all that incredible. I think there was like a one with Alec Baldwin or something back in the day. I haven't seen it, so maybe it was good, because it was pretty cool when I was a kid, because there weren't a lot of superhero movies, you know? But I like the Shadow as a character. I feel like that and the Green Hornet, I feel like they haven't really nailed them. No, I have. Maya was saying you never saw it. Yeah, I have. I just remember, I don't know. I feel like it wasn't that. But the radio program was so good. Here's another thing that I would love to see is I would like to see somebody do all the classic Philip Marlowe's, like all the like they should do a TV series. Maybe they have. If they have, let me know. But I feel like a TV series of all the Philip Marlowe stories would be amazing. Let's see here. Yeah, my wife got me all the radio program, like on CD back in the day. It was amazing. Nice. Coyote said, hello, how is everyone? Coyote said, it's very cold. I'm cold. It's very cold here. Wow. Getting a lot of snow, I'm guessing. From what I recall, you're in Canada, so I would imagine it would be a little chilly right now. It's interesting here. It's been raining every once in a while. That's been kind of wild for California. Wild weather. We got some rains. So we're just adding light and shadow, right? Just to kind of finish this up. Not a ton to add. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I think I'll just close that off. And then we just have to do some shading here. I took off that extra lump because it kind of looked like it was the butt of the robot. That's kind of the one revision the client mentioned, and I was like, yeah, you're right. That kind of does look like he has like a strange bottom. So hopefully I've solved that issue of the robot having too much junk in their trunk. And all right, let's see here. Man, I remember when I used to work in house doing educational art. One of my early art jobs was doing educational art. We had a wall of kind of misprints or like mistakes, and they called it like the wall of shame. But man, that was hilarious, that wall, because there were times where like somebody forgot to like they were doing a kid's book or something digitally, but they forgot to like color the kid's pants, so it looks like the kid's wearing like no pants. Like it was so bad. Like just things you'd never see kind of go to print, but it was funny. That was always a good reminder of like, you know, why you want to be very careful when you're coloring a kid's book, you know. But I remember on there was one time where I messed with my art director. So I had to draw like it was like a simile and metaphor card or something like that. And it was like a guy basically cutting down a tree with an axe. And I remember for my first round of it, I added just blood spraying out of the tree, like splatting on the like lumberjack's like face. My art director thought that was hilarious. That of course ended up on the wall of shame, but I never ended up doing the it never saw print. And of course I did it on its own layer, so it was easy to erase, but that was a fun one. All right, guys. What do we got here? We're getting there. Just adding some shadows, okay? Adding some shadows to the bag. Paul said, I'm in Canada South, 4 Fahrenheit here. Yeah. Jim was saying that my previous version had a robot. Nice. I didn't even see that pun there. That was just out there for the taking, and I didn't see it lined up. I don't have the sight. That actually needs to be like a short. I don't know, Jim. You and we need to do like a short sketch where it's like you're able, like the Matrix, you're able to see all the bad puns. You're like hired by, like every company in the world because you have the sight. You're like, I just see it. Paul said, going to sleep. Great drawing, Josh. Thank you. I'm trying. Okay. There's a couple things that need to get fixed, but we're almost there. We're almost done. It is fun drawing robots, though. Robots are the best ever. Okay. Almost there. This needs to kind of go here. Just kind of making up shadows here just to kind of give it more contrast and life. Almost done. Okay, I kind of like that. Let's just do our last little hurrahs here, which is, a little bit of a highlight here. I don't like that, how I did that. We'll clean it up. I actually do like that, but I want it a little smoother here. There we go. And then the last part, which will be just okay, let's see if that works. And then I think just the shadows after that, and then we can color, which is pretty exciting. So I'm about an hour behind where I should be, but that's not too bad. Okay. I am liking this. I just need to cast shadows. Them shadows. Okay. So let's do the cylinder here. And then the last thing I want is the computer part. So we'll get that going. Let's do another layer. Make sure we're saving too. I've definitely had times, guys, like in the past, I'm sure I've mentioned this, but where I did not save after spending this amount of work on stuff and then lost a file that I had spent like hours on. Not good. Just hit Command S. Okay, and I do want to cut. I'm just going to have this cut out in this spot. Look at that. Right? It's starting to work. Starting to be a clean robot. A clean robot. Have a good night, Paul. Definitely get some rest. It is like wild times. A wild time of day where you're at. I appreciate you kind of hanging out during this one, and hopefully you got some work done while we were all kind of hanging out. All right, and then this is going to be here. All right, and then finally, hey, would you look at that? I do want to do one thing just to show, like, I don't even mind this being here with the cord, but I want this to be kind of showing that it's rounded and kind of affecting that shadow a little bit. Bagoosh. Oh, that should have worked. There we go. Bagoosh. That's the term for that. All right. That does it for that. Now we can kind of merge down. Save. And now what I'm going to do is a good old trick of making... Oh, wait. We don't want to do this yet. Darn it. Okay. So I'm going to call this lines. Coyote said, did you see the plane get flipped upside down in Toronto? Everyone survived. That is wild. So they actually survived that. I am just weirded out by the amount of planes that are crashing lately. It's just bizarre. Like, plane crashes are pretty rare. So the fact that we've had, like, I don't know, it's like 6, it almost feels like a plane crash every week. That's really weird. Just very strange. I'm glad they survived, though. How did it land upside down and everyone survived? That's like, what? I want to know how that even happens. Like, that's insane. Okay, so this is going to be lines, and then I'm going to make a copy of this. I'm going to expand it. Object. We're doing the quick and easy route. Okay, and then here we go. Merge it all as one solid area. And then now I'm going to make this like that. Going to copy it. This will be expand black. Okay, and then we're going to put it here with no fill. And then I'm going to, now, this is why I have that previous one, so I can eyedrop the colors. Okay, and now we're going to use our little... I know this is weird and a lot of people don't even use these, but hold on. Cancel. I need to save. Okay, now we're going to color. Hey, look at that. The method I've been using to do these is pretty quick. Okay. And then I think this was going to be that dark area. Yeah. Okay, cool. So this one's going to be filled with that dark area. What else? What else was going to have the dark fill? The dark fill. That's when Dr. Phil goes dark. All right, I actually like that. Okay, so this is dark here. Where else? Okay, interesting. Got like a dark fill here. We have all kinds of interesting, like, darker pieces here. Sort of random. Okay, now I need that middle color, that lighter one. This one's going to be where we have our light colors. Coyote said, not dark Dr. Phil. Yes. It's dark Dr. Phil. I don't know if I can do a good Dr. Phil. There's people who, I don't know, there's some kind of, I'm not an impressionist, you guys. The best I can get with impressions is to maybe mimic an impressionist painter. That was a stretch. Quite the stretch. I think there's like a kind of thing going on here. And then we definitely need to get back to our darker color here. Ooh. Okay, it's getting there. Was the bag, did I have the bag tinted? Yeah, the bag is tinted. Okay, that makes more sense. That's a choice I would think I would make. So we're going to have this bag be, oh, not this color. Not this color yet. Okay, now. I think that actually works. We just have a few little things left. Let me just see compared to the... Let me turn off my minimal thing for my template just to see. Oh, okay. So the hose is supposed to be... All right. So the hose is the last part. The hose will be... Them hose need color. As usual, the last part is the hose. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm gonna expand. I think that's gonna do it. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call that done. As long as I'm not missing anything. I'm gonna call that done. So we're going to real quick object expand. Okay. I'm going to really quickly make a white layer underneath everything. And then finally, I'm going to crop it. So find the edge of our page. Actually, let's see a couple things. What's my document size? 7.125 by 5.875. Okay, that's not what I wanted. Okay. 7.125 by 5.875. Did I get that backwards? Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh. Let's try this again. What the heck is going on here? Okay, let's try that again. 5.875. I think that's correct. Did I just do it the wrong axis? Yes. Okay, now let's align. Line to artboard. Yes. Okay. Let's cut. It's actually... What the heck? Did stuff get moved somehow? Whoa. Something weird just happened. Everything get moved? No. We need this perfectly centered. That's just bizarre that got offset. Okay. Paste in top. Cool. One last thing. I missed a spot. Look at that beauty. We got it. we finished our illustration. Pretty happy with it. Happy with the results. I'm going to get rid of the old one. Out with the old, in with the new. Get rid of this. Save. And we will basically rock this business. But there we go. We got our cool robot illustration. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. We made a robot, ladies and gentlemen. All right, guys, have a good night. I will see you on the next live stream. I might be streaming again in an hour or so, or maybe about an hour or so, working on comics. We'll see how quickly I can do my lesson plan. But thank you to everybody who participated. And I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me and doing art with me. It's pretty cool that you guys do that. If you haven't yet, hit like, hit the bell, so you get notifications when we're about to go live. Send me money. I'm just kidding. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's live stream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream.